500,000 people joined on a single live stream, which is the biggest live stream for the Super Bowl. 25% of the total e-commerce sales are happening via live stream shopping in Asia. It was almost strange that there wasn't a service in the US that has adopted that.
In that moment, did it feel like this could become huge, or did it still feel like a weird niche corner of the internet?
That's a good question. I think.
Meet Ludo Antonov, the engineer who helped build one of the fastest growing live commerce platforms in the world, Whatnot.
Behind every great product, there's luck, but also there's usually a great team that believes in the mission and is relentless.
From leading engineering at companies like Pinterest and Lyft to scaling systems powering millions of real-time transactions, he's spent years building the infrastructure behind how people buy, sell, and connect online. Now he's building his next company, SuperMe. But this conversation goes deeper into the systems, decisions, and lessons behind scaling platforms like Whatnot.
What's the hardest part about scaling live commerce that most people completely underestimate, especially when you had so many other competitors in the market, like giants like TikTok, Amazon?
I would say that.
How did a niche live auction app turn into an $11 billion company? And what actually made it sticky? Today, we are talking about Whatnot, the live selling marketplace that says sellers drove over $8 billion in live sales in 2025. They report users spend about 95 minutes a day in the app, and customer retention is over 80% month over month, meaning month after month, more than 8 out of 10 customers come back. That's insane. They also report 20 million new accounts created last year and over 500,000 hours of live shows hosted per week. I'm Karina Marie Diaz. This is Neighbor Chat. And today I'm with my dear friend, Ludo Antonov. We met at dinner and we've adventured together at the Lavi VC conference on the Big Island in Hawaii. We clicked immediately. And we've had that easy immigrant brain connection ever since. Direct, curious, zero fluff. Ludo led engineering at Whatnot through Hypergrowth from 2021 to 2024 before co-founding SuperMe, which we get to talk about on another day. At Whatnot, I want to understand what you saw up close, not the headline version, the lived version. Welcome, Ludo. I'm so excited to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Super fun to be here and super excited about what you're doing with Neighbor Chat. I love that you're trying to bring real stories to people. And so happy to chat more.
Yay. Can't wait. So excited. Seriously, this is so much fun. For someone listening to you for the first time, can you share who you are? And for the people who have never heard of live shopping, what is Whatnot really?
Yeah, well, my name is Ludo, and originally I'm from Bulgaria. I spent the early part of my life there, and then I came to the US, and since then I've had the chance to work at some of the successful consumer companies, Microsoft, Hulu, Pinterest, Lyft, and Whatnot, and then start my own company. So it's been really exciting. For people that haven't never heard of live shopping, I guess the best way to think about it is like eBay meets Twitch. And so you have sellers that go live. They have inventory of things that they have either collected or hard to find, or they're specifically passionate about. And you have people that like to tune in and just kind of feel that community and are looking to get things that they're excited about, like that they can't find in other places, or they have specific style of sellers that they really enjoy spending time with. And most importantly, I think they feel like they're in a shared community surrounded by other people that also care about the same things that they do. And so, for example, if you're really into sneakers and now you have a room of like 200 people or 500 people basically looking at rare sneakers and kind of bidding, buying them. It's a pretty thrilling experience.
Incredible. Okay, I know everyone knows but me, but what is Twitch?
Yeah, I mean, Twitch is one of the original live streaming platforms for gaming, and so so when you think about it, it's a lot of how live streaming first sort of took hold into a segment, at least on the in the US. It's maybe a little known fact, but live stream shopping has been huge in Asia. I think last I heard was about 20 or 25% of the total e-commerce sales are happening via live stream shopping in Asia. And so it is actually a rare case where the US didn't really have an equivalent, and I think there's a few factors that kind of factored into that. But that actually was at the core of what Whatnot was, or is. Yeah,
that's incredible. How far behind we were at live shopping.
Yeah,
but not so much now with Whatnot.
Yeah,
we're catching up.
Yeah, I mean, I still think the market is very big, so there's still a lot of room to grow. But it is exciting to see what the team has been doing, and I'm cheering from the sidelines, and super excited to see that they had 500,000 people join on a single live stream, which is the biggest live stream for the Super Bowl a few days ago, and it's really great to see that. All the excitement and everything.
Can you walk me through, when you say it's a live stream they joined for the Super Bowl on Whatnot, what does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, more specifically, it was Mr. Beast doing a show and a giveaway, and Logan Paul is there as well, and so that was the show. It was basically a format that Whatnot has called giveaways. And so Mr. Beast had the show and gave away more than $1 million worth of things. So yeah,
amazing. And how long is that segment? Is it like?
It was probably close to an hour, I want to say. It was happening right before the Super Bowl, but yeah. It
was like pregame.
It was pregame. It's exactly. It's pregame. It's great. And it was also awesome, to watch it without the anxiety of the systems might break. So I got to experience it as a real user, which was great.
Oh, incredible! Without performance.
No performance anxiety.
Before we get into the numbers, I want to start with a moment. Do you remember the first time you saw something happen on Whatnot and thought, okay, this is not normal marketplace behavior?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that there's been so many of those, but probably the one that I can remember is just seeing how much sellers care about their community. Generally, when you have a marketplace, you're just trying to do fulfillment, and then watching someone, be like, "Oh, I accidentally bid on something," and then the seller being like, "Yeah, that's okay. I'll just refund it." Just kind of basically treating people much more like they're in the community, made it feel very different, and you could just feel the, people in the stream just cared, and it was really nice. So to me, that was something that that level of passion within the community is something that I've seen at Pinterest. Quite a bit, people become very attached and passionate about the product, and to a degree also with Lyft. When the whole Uber Lyft wars were happening, people did have this emotional attachment to Lyft because of the way that Lyft was really treating customers. And I think with Whatnot, I saw that same behavior, but it was very much driven by the sellers and by the team that was building these relationships and curating the sellers that are on the platform at the time.
It is incredible how there's been sort of this shift where in person, it's so natural to be thoughtful about people because you know you're going to see them the next day.
Yeah.
But what do you think it is about the community and whatnot that made people have offer a service that was similar to in person in the like the 80s?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely the appeal of finding people that care about like the same thing that you care about, but are not like necessarily geographically in the same place. I also think that the fact that we were in COVID times was another part of the equation, which basically meant that a lot of people were just basically stuck at home, and for them, I do think that like Whatnot was that third place, right? The place where you go hang out when you have a little bit of time, and then and I think definitionally when you care about like certain things, you find like-minded people. And I do think that also plays part in the retention and it's just kind of like how the community presents itself.
It's incredible. Such a unique series of timing to be aligned in favor of Whatnot
Yeah. Yeah.
to the world. Given everything that we've talked about the kindness of the sellers and this unique movement that happened with Whatnot and the timing and history, and in that moment, did it feel like this could become huge, or did it still feel like a weird niche corner of the internet?
Yeah, I mean, I always had the conviction that Whatnot would be a huge business. You know, like ever since I first chatted with Grant and Logan, and I think it's partially informed by the fact that you know there was that same behavior was existing in another market at a pretty large scale, and it was almost strange that that there wasn't a service in the U.S. that has adopted that, and also I think they had done a pretty tremendous job just curating the initial community and the initial product, which I think led to the right ingredients to be able to scale that and get it through hypergrowth.
Because from the outside, people see an 11 billion valuation, but I'm curious what it felt like before it was obvious.
Yeah, I mean, before it was obvious, it was, you know, like there was a lot of things that we had to overcome. And I would say that goes from technical perspective in terms of, you know, building the systems that can support the users, building the product so that it looks more polished, recruiting the right people, building, you know, like the technology brand around it so that we can actually get again the right people to, you know, to build the product. A lot of that was a lot of grind, and I think I would say that you know, it's interesting. So one of my former colleagues who actually later joined Whatnot thought when I joined Whatnot, I'm having a midlife crisis. You know, but when he actually started like looking into the business and you know, like in the team, I think he got, you know, like he got conviction over like the opportunity that can create, and I think that's something that I personally take very seriously because you know, a lot of my colleagues from Pinterest and Lyft actually ended up, you know, joining Whatnot, and I'm glad that they did because without them, we wouldn't have been able to kind of like bridge and just build the product to where it is. And then the other thing I would say is when you see a product with a lot of potential, but just not having the enough manpower to get it, you know, like on that curve, it's like you only have so much time, you know, like to get that before it either doesn't reach that curve or someone else, you know, like basically takes advantage of that. And so I you know, it's very serendipitous, but I think that there was a lot of micro decisions that went into getting that over the curve.
One thing that I found fascinating is how often it's almost like teams evolve and grow together, like through their morphing of their knowledge is expanding into these different spaces. So it's almost like you're like a hive mind,
Yeah.
like but in person with real people in a community, and then they're moving into this other company and they get to create there together. It's co-creation at its best.
Yeah.
It's so fun that there's this, it's camaraderie, it's bond, it's the deepest form. And to me, because you get to solve some of the biggest, most interesting technical problems or business problems that exist and do it together.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much true. I mean, I think, behind every great product, there's luck, but also there's usually a great team that believes in the mission and is relentless. Yeah.
A relentless team that believes in the mission. How fun
Yeah.
to be a part of that. You hear people say, oh, so it's like eBay. What are they fundamentally misunderstanding when they say that?
Yeah. I mean, I think like eBay is, like eBay, I would say, sells a lot of like secondhand and collectibles. But I think the thing that, like, again, people are missing is eBay is pure marketplace. It doesn't really have a community around them. And I think one of the interesting things about Whatnot is it lives in that, like in that intersection between social and marketplace. And there's very few very few services that actually like live in these two giant sectors, or like two giant sectors in general. But I find that those end up being like very resilient businesses in the long term.
Out of all the companies you've worked at, which one has had the least? Is it Hulu community or Lyft? Hulu, Lyft.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Hulu probably.
Yeah.
Hulu had a lot of fans, but I would say it was a media company, and I think like we were doing a lot of innovative stuff at the time, in which very few people believed in to begin with, which is streaming on the internet. Who would have thought? But definitely it was much more on that front.
And then there's QVC.
Yeah,
which was live selling before smartphones. What's the honest difference between QVC and Whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like with QVC, in which I haven't spent a lot of time with, but it is linear and you can't really participate in a way that like you feel and you see how people are participating. And also it was, again, like a lot of it, it was very difficult for a seller, like to be like, hey, I am passionate about selling things. I want to go and see if anyone else is. And so I do think that level of like entrepreneurship, it was very hard to cultivate in a QVC format, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think QVC had a higher sort of threshold to get in.
Yes.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And though I think for the time when it was hot, it was the most community-like way to be having that experience. I mean, I think either would be like, we have another caller, they would just listen, feel like that was that version for that time in history. And so we've just have so much more technology available to us. It's like mirroring what technology can do, but the same concept. It's as intimate as you could get at the time. I remember just thinking, like, it's almost like FOMO of not buying the thing because somebody else was. And I was like, why aren't I buying things on QVC? Like, should I be? Because people would get it so excited. Yeah. So it's like that at scale. Whatnot takes that same philosophy. Was TikTok the reason Whatnot became a success?
It's a good question. I don't think that was really the case. I think that it was evolving user preferences that really made a difference. TikTok, in general, I think, as a business is very helpful in terms of like getting creators. Yeah, like I think that's one of the claim of fame for TikTok is it allowed creators that don't have a background in making videos to actually be able to have presence and followership and viewership and create that cycle. There are some very interesting talks about like how they scaled early on. But I do think with Whatnot, it was some of the live stream primitives that already existed in Asia was one of the things that kind of made a difference. And then the other part is that I think that the missing ingredient was that in the US, people cared more about collectibles, like things that are hard to find. In Asia, people cared more about deals, and things that you can get very cheap. But I think that was the core difference between the two, which I think is manifesting through Whatnot.
That's fascinating. That makes sense that Americans would be more about collecting more stuff. If I open the app right now and drop into a random stream, what am I actually witnessing? I don't have the app, so.
Yeah. I mean, what you're witnessing is like live people actually selling, selling things, and it's very categorized. What are you interested in? Electronics or fashion or like trading cards. You just get to find interesting streams with interesting people, browse their shops and see if there's something interesting and just participate in getting something cool. I've gotten a lot of things from there. I would say my understanding of sneakers in general has improved quite a bit since I worked at Whatnot. And in fact, I'm pretty sure I bought this on Whatnot. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Concept.
Yes.
It works.
Yep.
So would I just search, like, if I was looking for a woman who's 6 feet tall, like clothing for someone who's 6 feet tall, like, could I go that granular, or would it just be like long pants? Like, what would I search?
I mean, I think like generally you would probably have more of a browsing behavior where you would go in and it would be like, oh, there's like people that are selling fashion, like for, like this, let's say bags. And then you would just kind of browse through the streams the way you would do on an Instagram or, like again on TikTok and see what people are actually like doing right now. So I wouldn't say the behavior was more of like you start with like, I'm looking for that specific thing. It's more like in Europe, you would go to the middle of the city and then you would just browse the stores and see what's on display and like what people are actually like buying, like what is trending. And that gives you a lot of sense of like discovering things that you might not have known that you wanted, but you end up actually buying and liking.
I see. So it's more discovery driven.
Yeah.
Not like I'm going to purchase an item like on Poshmark. Yeah. Search.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Wow. That means a lot of time in the app. That's part of how some of those hours are clocked.
Yeah. In
the space. Here's the stat that messes with me. Users spend about 95 minutes a day on the app. Like this is really happening. Nobody spends 95 minutes somewhere just to buy something. That's emotional behavior. What's actually happening in those 95 minutes? Is it about the product? Is it about the host? Is it about the chat?
I think it's all of the above. I mean, again, it's kind of like when you go someplace to hang out, like you usually don't go necessarily for one thing or the other. It's the experience. And I don't think that there's like a definite one thing that drives that. I think it's the collective of the host being entertaining, having good things that they're selling, being in good company, and finding other people that are like-minded. It was actually funny. I think there are people that have met in real life because they actually met through Whatnot, and we've even had people that have gotten married after after meeting in a Whatnot show, which is really random, right?
Does that mean somebody's like I'm buying this, you're buying this, we need to chat because we both like these shoes?
Yeah, and I mean, like, and you know, like if they're passionate about like something like trading cards, you know, like or you know, like or specific collectibles, and they start chatting about that in the chat. And again, like also a lot of people do end up meeting at conventions and other, you know, like in other places like that. So so in a way, it's not really isolated. It's just another way to hang out, you know, like with like-minded set of people.
It's incredible. It's helping people
Yeah.
find each other.
Yeah.
What are people coming for first? Shopping, entertainment, or belonging?
I think it depends. It really depends. But I do think that they're left with the belonging. I think that's the important part. And I would say, obviously, if you're not looking to buy something, then that probably is not the right place. So a lot of people do come with commercial intent, you know, like on the buyer side. And I think on the seller side, a lot of people just come in because they're just passionate about, you know, like they're tired of their 9 to 5. They're like really passionate about resale or thrifting or collectibles. And that gives them an opportunity to actually like do this part-time and earn more money, or like do it full-time. So yeah.
That's so cool. I was an avid thrifter.
Yeah, well,
In college, I wanted to get my girlfriend and I, we would go thrifting at Goodwill as is. And I really wanted to have a bumper sticker that said, I heart Goodwill as is.
yeah.
So fun.
Yeah.
So it's like that. It's like,
It's very much like that. And I'm sure if you download the app, you know, like you would probably end up spending 90 minutes looking at thrifting. You know, like,
I used to love it. Now I'm like, don't want to spend as much time shopping personally. But I do love beautiful items. To your point about the potential for side hustle here. If I'm 22, curious, maybe a little broke, I want to try selling on Whatnot. What's the smartest way to test it?
yeah, I mean, I think like the smartest way to test it is just start doing it. I also think that there's a lot of Whatnot seller groups that where like, sellers share tips about what works, what doesn't. But you know, and the product has changed, you know, like in the last year and a half. But I do think that the best way to do it is just try it out, and if that's something that you're passionate about, then see if there's other people that are also in the same wavelength. But it's a very supportive community.
I think it's in 9 countries, right?
I think so.
I'm curious, which countries adopted it most quickly in that time period? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, we started obviously in the US. I think the first international expansion was, you know, the first couple of countries were the Canada and the UK, and that was actually, you know, it was very deliberate, but you know, like a hot potato move, because you always have like, hey, is it better to actually like stay in one country and continue or expand internationally? I personally was pushing very much on the international front because I saw how crippling that was for Lyft, being in one country versus Uber that took a more aggressive route expanding into other countries, and it was very bumpy. But ultimately, I think it was the right decision. Like from a technology perspective, I would say it was a brave but the right decision because it allowed the systems underneath to not bake assumptions that otherwise would have been way harder to change later on. Like for example, the tax system, or like buying in dollars versus euros or other currency. Those were some things that we were able to kind of like get ahead of earlier. And I remember with Lyft, when we tried to expand internationally, one of the bigger problems was, you know, every car has a VIN number, but apparently you don't have a VIN number outside of the US. And so when you have like your entire understanding of the world like mapped around VIN numbers, now you have to peel a lot of systems, how they work, in order to enable this new territory to exist. And so to a degree, I think, again, it was pretty courageous to try and do that. And it was by no means a walk in the park, but I'm really glad that we actually went and did it.
That's incredible. So which countries do you think adopted Whatnot more like quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like in the UK was fairly quick because partially because I think it's like same language, but also I think that people in the UK were looking for things already on Whatnot and trying to kind of like ship, like they were looking at US items to ship into the UK. And so just kind of like having local sellers, yeah, like that was, like that was pretty big.
That's interesting because I would never been able to guess which country would have adopted the
Yeah.
technology and the concept most quickly. I would have thought Asian countries would.
Well, we never did, like push into the Asian countries because as we talked about, like their market is a little more saturated, and I think the expectations there were radically different from what like Western Europe, like North America consumer would expect. And so I think usually with these kind of expansions, the more variables that you can eliminate, the better. We went through a similar thing at Pinterest where Pinterest was very big in the US, but everyone thought that is just the US. And I remember we tried a lot of international things that didn't work. But then we ended up grouping 5 countries, we called it the M5, and starting to push the product into these countries like more as a uniform thing. And that actually helped quite a bit. So we took some of the lessons from how we did international into Whatnot.
It's so thrilling.
Yeah.
Get so much like insights into how the entire world is working, their minds, what they purchase and how they purchase and how quickly they adopt new technology. Now I want to shift to your seat in all of this. When you joined in late 2021, what was fragile?
I would say I gotta give the benefit to the team for like getting the app to where it was, but I would say the infrastructure that we needed in order to support live streaming at scale was obviously not where we needed it to be, and I would say we had to do a lot of overhauls on like the live stream experience, how it feels. I still remember like the first few weeks, it was not very clear. The viewers will randomly disappear. So you would see like, there's like 80 people and then there's 0 and then there's 20. And these kind of small inconsistencies are very jarring from like a consumer experience because you're like, well, like where did all the people that I was hanging out with go? And so a lot of it was actually making sure that we go back to the basics. We figure out how to make the system work in a reliable fashion. And then the other thing that was really interesting about Whatnot that doesn't really quite exist in other products is that you have huge swings in terms of like the people attending things. So you can be like 1,000 people are watching this show and now they're all rated into like another show, or you are starting a stream with someone more popular and now you have like 10,000 people or 20,000 people just kind of join in at once. And so obviously that puts a huge strain on the systems. And it's something that took a lot of iteration to make better.
To be able to support that contrast.
Yeah,
sometimes
exactly.
There'd be a couple of people here and then other times, what was the max?
Well, I think like the max was probably around like maybe 20 to 40,000 people, like somewhere in that range.
In a live stream.
Selling. Yeah, but
is there usually one person selling things or a bunch of people?
It's usually one person, but they can have like a supporting team behind them.
And in that scenario you were describing where you said people would just disappear.
Yeah.
What was happening there?
Yeah, I mean, like it was just the system was built pretty quick, and I mean, again, the team did incredible work to to get get that in a good place. But at the time, it was just one of these things that, as you start scaling, everything starts breaking. And so the small things that you wouldn't expect they're happening. Like, for example, your iPhone disconnects and reconnects back, and now it's seeing something different, So these are some of the things that were happening at the time. Yeah.
As I was trying to understand what you were trying to refer to when you said, help me understand, since I don't know the app, when people would disappear, What does that mean? Like, does that mean I'm in a live sale and then it just goes away? Or does that mean I go in a live sale and then I come back and I can't find the same seller?
I would say like at the time it was more you are in a stream and imagine I'm selling something, right? Like, and you're hanging out and there's like 30 people that are watching, and I suddenly see that, like my stream went from like 5 people to 10 and 20, and I'm really excited about it, and I'm about to do a giveaway, and then suddenly it drops to 0. And I'm like, is anyone here? And people are still there. But then the other thing that you to think about, and that we spend a lot of time working through, is if you imagine 1,000 people trying to bid on the same item at the same time, like who wins, right? Like it's like a millisecond difference that is like, well, now you won versus I won. And so a lot of these things, like you want to be extremely fair, and that means the technology needs to support like that ability to actually like the sensitivity. Yeah.
What's the hardest part about scaling live commerce that most people completely underestimate, especially when you had so many other competitors in the market, like giants like TikTok, Amazon?
Yeah, I mean, I think like from technology perspective, I would say that fluctuation between the live experience is quite unforgiving, because literally everything is happening live. If something breaks, normally with systems you can fall back to something else, like or cache. There's like many techniques you can do in order to make sure that the users still have a degraded but okay experience. And with a live, it's just a lot harsher, right? Like if the bidding doesn't work, then your product is not live. No pun intended.
Right.
But that fluctuation between like, okay, well, we have 0 margin and you have huge fluctuations between people coming in and out, it just requires like a lot of precision. Yeah.
So that means you're really good at being precise.
I am not great at being precise, but I've been very lucky to be surrounded by people that are very good at being precise.
Perfect.
So yeah.
Live commerce dies without trust. What's the fastest way to lose it?
The fastest way to lose trust as a company is just to not be transparent about what actually is happening, and fair. So if people do make mistakes, you can't really be like, well, we're gonna treat person A one way and person B, like differently. You need like a very consistent way of applying the rules and knowing what correct means. So I would say like that's very important, both from establishing the rules of engagement as well as moderation, and making sure that when people are not following the rules, like there's appropriate consequences.
I love your devotion to fairness. I used to call myself the fair police.
So
I'm just so motivated by as much as possible things being fair. So I love to hear you talk about fairness.
Yeah.
It's fun. Fair is fun. What kept you up at night more? Payments, counterfeits, moderation, or disputes?
I would say moderation probably was the big one, because again, that's the guideline around the community, and being able to give sellers the correct tools, but also make sure that everyone's having a good experience. That was extremely important. And then obviously with payments is the second biggest thing, which is making sure that like everything is secure, and like so you feel like you're not walking in a place where you can be scammed, or like bad things can happen to like to your account, or you can lose your earnings, etc. So both of these things were they kept me up at night, but I would say like moderation was probably the number one thing.
There's always this debate in tech: automate everything versus keep humans in the loop. What did you automate that worked, and what did you refuse to automate?
That's a good question. I would say that I am personally a big believer in human in the loop. And so one of the things that we did that I thought was really good was there was a feature where sellers can enable safe mode, and so basically, because there was a lot of, we call it troll bidding, like someone will be like, they will bid $1,000 on an item just so they can see everyone fail. And and we put like a protection in place where it's like, in order verified buyers. That's what it was. Yeah. So I'd say like I'm a big believer in having humans in the loop. One of the features I'm particularly proud that we built was called verified buyers, because when you come in and everyone is bidding, you can have someone basically put like an enormous amount of money, like $10,000, not have that money on their card and have it bounce. And so
That's evil.
Yeah, we call these troll bidding. So yeah, what we built was something that buyers could turn on, which is called verified buyers. And that would mean that like you are, there's a little more friction in terms of like you have to validate that you are who you are, that you have enough money in your account, et cetera, but it also meant that, like everyone will have like a much higher level of experience, better experience. That's an example where we still try to make it like as automated as possible, but still had like the human decide the level of freedom, like that happens. Like, do you want to go for more reach, but potentially kind of like have these kind of people that like are coming in and causing issues from time to time, or do you want to go for like a more of a safe but smaller audience that is able to purchase, and that obviously affects the price at which you're able to sell everything. So a lot of these things, I think like the important part was to put the right things in the hands of users. So that's one thing that I think, like, of course you can try and automate that, but I think people want different degrees of freedom. And so we didn't automate that. Like, we basically gave the right tools to the right people to make sure that they have the right experience that they want for their audiences.
I love that you got so granular to empower your seller to have that type of autonomy so that they can actually feel like they're creating an environment and experience, because it really is an experience.
It is an experience, yeah.
And they're like a curator of your shopping experience, like they're a shop owner of their own universe, and then you get welcomed in. And I love that they have the power to share that level of risk that is their comfort level. And I think that giving the sellers that kind of power to have that choice creates loyalty almost, because it's like, you care about me. You invested in me having a way to express who I am in this space where you have so much power and control. Like, you could take that away in 2 seconds, but choosing not to is just, it's unique. And I think it's clever. And it takes more work and time and money for you guys to, obviously, for any company to implement, for anyone to have more options. Yeah. It's just more features. Yeah. But it's very intelligent, I think, to give people that kind of, it's almost like humanity. Yeah. Like, you're a human being. You have a right to choose. Yeah. And I think that, and it creates a differentiated product, like in terms of, people feel more in control of their experience, and that I think makes a difference for them. But in terms of what we automated, I would say like we tried to automate the stuff that like no one really wanted to do, like the minutiae, like for example, printing labels for sellers. Imagine you have like 1,000, orders that you just completed. Well, now you need to go ship them. And that is an experience as well. So we worked a lot on making that much smoother, where you can, print a lot of them at the same time. You can do a lot of things that otherwise would take you quite a bit longer, just to reduce the, the stress that actually, the friction, on that side. Beautiful. So much thought. So thoughtful. And what's the biggest misconception people have about moderation in live selling? And what does moderation really mean? I would say like what moderation really means is really making sure that people are having the experience that you want, the intended experience, both on the buying side as well as on the seller side. And so that means that if you are offensive, to the audience, then there's consequences, right? Like, you are in a live chat, you can say anything that has serious impact to others, where you as a seller can choose to do things that are not great, like try and do gambling or like sell counterfeits, and all of these things are basically, they impact the experience of the intended experience. So that's where
we were spending a lot of time, obviously, and you can go down to like the most extreme versions of this, right? Like where you have because everything is live, you don't know what's going to happen. It's not pre-recorded, so again, moderation was about like predicting what would have that level of like experience degradation, and then what are the ways that we can prevent that or preempt it, and react to it as fast as possible.
And here's something I've been thinking about. What makes a Whatnot seller different from someone doing TikTok Shop or YouTube Live?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say YouTube Live definitely doesn't have a lot of the, I don't think it's really built for commerce. And so the tools there are lacking, but in terms of like TikTok Shop versus Whatnot, I think it's just choosing their community, and that to a degree I think is the very important part.
Inside the company, what did you actually call the sellers? Did you call them creators or did you call them sellers?
We call them sellers. We call them sellers, yeah.
Because in a way, they are like it's sort of a gray area today with creators, because they are creating in a way it's a form of entertainment, but it's not like Mr. Beast style.
Yeah.
But it is it's a world, it's an experience, but it's more like a business, like a shop.
Yeah, I mean, I personally have always thought of the sellers as entrepreneurs, and people that are doing this, like in a way that's building a business. Now whether I think creators are like also in that vein, like similar vein, but we call them sellers, and I think this did differentiate for us even internally. Like it's a big clarification that you are here because you are actually transacting with people. I think on TikTok and YouTube Live, like there's a lot of people that are there just for the entertainment. It's not the business that Whatnot was in.
Mm-hmm. So starting from a business mindset.
Yeah,
it's a different platform.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's optimizing for a different function.
Exactly.
Did Whatnot shape the sellers, or did the sellers shape Whatnot?
I think this is a really good question, and I think it's a little bit of both. I think Whatnot gave a platform to the sellers on which they can express and transact. But I do think that in the process of doing that, this new format emerged, which definitely, has shaped how sellers think about like what works and what doesn't. So I think in a lot of these scenarios and marketplaces, I would say like similar with Lyft, you have to know what works on a platform, and you start doing that behavior, and then the platform enables new ways in which you can actually take advantage of it. So I think it's very symbiotic, like and cyclical in that way.
Live commerce isn't new. Marketplaces aren't new. So why did Whatnot scale when others didn't?
That's a good question. I think part of it is obviously timing. But I do think the focus, as we talked about, was a lot more on something that people genuinely cared about in the US, which is finding things that are hard to find. And also there were these pockets of communities that already were that were already doing this behavior in the real world. And I think to me that's always been like the connecting thread between companies. Like if you think about Pinterest, people were already collecting and clipboarding things before they were able to go do that on the board. I think people were already going to thrift shops, to conventions, trading cards, having a passion around that. And
asking other people for rides.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. And so I think like that existing behavior is just like it manifested. And I think, the technology was mature enough where it just allowed to, to transition that behavior from from in person to online.
When you think about competition, who's the real behavioral competitor?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the real behavioral competitor is really wanting to hang out with the right people that are passionate about a topic. So kind of like that concept of the third place. I think that it's kind of like when you go to every city and you have like the bar, like that you go to where like people hang out, and do certain things. And so I would say like the behavioral competitor is really kind of like that. At least from my perspective, like is that third place, and it's competing to be that third place where you choose to go hang out with people that care about the same things that you do, and you do that because it does give you a sense of belonging and accomplishment and participation and a sense of community.
Not the logo competitor, the platform competing for the same user behavior. Is it TikTok Shop, Amazon Live, eBay, YouTube, or something else entirely?
I mean, I would say TikTok Shop is probably the closest to that. Okay. In terms of competing, but again, I think that for them that is like a tiny sliver of the overall behavior, that is happening on the platform. I really think that it still is like fairly unique in its positioning. I don't see anyone else that, like that has really gone, like across different categories, like just focus on live stream shopping.
What makes Whatnot durable in a world where distribution shifts overnight?
Yeah, I mean, I would say this goes back to the community. And when you have sellers that have like their audience and they have a cadence on how they hang out, it's much less about the distribution. It's a lot more about the passion, and the familiarity, right? Like if you're not there just to transact, but you're there to be social and transact. And I think it's like the fusion of the two of those that make it such that as distribution changes, your human behavior doesn't change as much.
Brilliant. I love that analogy about the bar, because when you think about it, you go to a bar, your local bar down the street, because it's your bar.
Yeah, exactly.
It's your people.
Yeah.
It's your tribe, and it's your route to the bar that you have all those memories of walking to the bar or, getting to the bar. And so if you went to a different bar, you now are not engaging with all of that same.
You have to relearn exactly. Yeah.
You want to have your home bar.
Yeah. I mean, you can get a beer from another bar, but it just doesn't feel the same, right? Like the sense of familiarity is not there.
Yeah. So it's not the shopping. It's the community at the bar. I mean, Whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
Investors don't keep writing big checks if they think something is a fad. What do you think they saw early that most people missed in Whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard for me to say what they saw, but I can only speculate. And I'll say from my perspective, the three parts that were really a big point is one, the existing community on the platform was extremely engaged, and you can see that level of like rabidness. Like I've seen this at early Pinterest, and it's super hard to come by, but when you see it, you know it. And I think that existed on the platform. And then the other part that I think is really big is you just having a comparable in Asia that is huge and at scale. Mm-hmm. And so when you kind of like have the beginning point and the end point, then the question is like, what's the execution? Like, does the team actually have what it takes to get from point A to point B? And I think that's the part where like the strength of the team really shine through. Like with the earlier team, and then as we kept adding more people as well.
And when it catches on like wildfire like this, like you saw it at Pinterest and at Whatnot, it's just such an incredible moment in history where technology and innovation meet, and there's just like it's like a dream. It's
Yeah.
like everything aligns. It's so beautiful. How exciting to be at the center of so many different spaces where that was happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the, it's definitely a rush. I mean, it's a complicated time to navigate in the company because it's kind of like you're going through the equivalent of puberty, like company puberty, where it's just like everything's changing, and now you're growing up
On stage.
Yeah, on stage.
I'm so excited to be here talking with you about it.
I'm excited about talking with you. Like it's amazing. I appreciate what you do with Neighbor Chat as well. It's like I feel like in the same way you're reaching to enlighten people in areas that bring joy. So it's great.
Oh, thanks for bringing me in the loop.
Yeah.
Love that. If you had to name 3 things Whatnot did exceptionally well that made hypergrowth possible, what are they?
Yeah, I would say number one is listening to users. I mean, it was one of the values that we had. So listening to user feedback just makes a world of difference. The second thing I'd say is focus. There's a lot of ways in which you can get like really defocused and do a lot of things that are like not very valuable. But staying very focused on the core mission of the company was really important. And then third thing I would say is community. Again, like it was one of the things that I would say like go-to-market community from that perspective. Like it was it was an exceptional example of how like how to build an audience that actually has that sense of belonging around the product.
Incredible. You left in May 2024. Why then? Was it burnout? Was it timing? Was it completion?
Yeah, I would say I've had the chance to work at a number of consumer companies like Pinterest, Hulu, Lyft, and whatnot. I know that whenever a new chapter starts to happen in the industry, it's very serendipitous. Live stream shopping was kind of like that. Streaming was also like this, the social, like media era. And when AI was starting, I saw an opportunity to build something that I'm extremely passionate about. I was able to actually convince one of the people that I'm extremely that I love working with, Casey Winters, to start that journey with me. And so, it's whenever there's a rocket ship, like whenever there's a shift, you can either build a rocket ship, jump on one, or you can keep watching on the sidelines. So to me, the answer has always been like jump on a rocket ship. And it was very interesting to basically be like, what would it take to build a rocket ship, like from 0 to 1. And it's been a very fulfilling experience since, but yeah.
Incredible. Super Me was calling.
Yeah.
How exciting. And it sounds like your expertise is hypergrowth.
Yeah. Yes, very much.
What did hypergrowth teach you that you didn't expect?
I would say that you have to think about things in advance, because by the time you're sprinting 100 miles an hour, any small objects in your path basically turn deadly. And so you have to way ahead of time kind of be like, okay, what are the things that would be extremely detrimental to the trajectory we're on? And you have to be very disciplined in terms of like how do you actually structure that, both in terms of like the quality of people, the density of people, the quality of the product, the density of the product. You can't go too wide. You don't want to go too deep on product features. So I think it's just that like it's like if you're like a giant gyroscope. Like you have to keep very much in the center, and you can't take your eyes off the ball. Yeah.
Can't take your eyes off the ball. Sounds like you're good at keeping your eye on the ball and all them like you're juggling 500,000 balls.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
You have a million eyeballs all over your head.
Yeah.
I don't know how to
Yeah.
keep your eyes on all those balls. It
Yeah.
sounds like so many balls.
yeah.
You make it sound so simple. Just keep your eye on the ball. Like
I mean,
piece of cake.
and yeah, I think like also the other part is like accepting that like shit will happen.
Right.
And so just being, and I think like that's one of the things that's like is important. It's been, you know, like something that I keep learning over time, but it's just being kind to yourself and the people around you, because like if you're feeling that, you know, like that gravity, it can be very disorienting and quite stressful.
When you look back at your time at Whatnot, what are you most proud of building?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I was most proud of is actually being able to see all of the sellers and buyers kind of like make that connection, and really like seeing sellers actually quit their daytime jobs and jump and do you know, like live stream shopping and like and selling full time, because that is really what they're passionate about, and being able to make a lot of money from that and to pay off their houses, mortgages, you know, like pay for their kids' tuition and everything. That seeing these stories, the personal stories, is probably the thing that I'm most proud of, you know, like from a product perspective. Yeah, it just brings me joy to see people succeed.
Oh, I love that. I love knowing that. I love that knowing that you did that and that all of these people have this way to sort of generate income in areas where there may not have been opportunity for
Yeah.
them in the past,
Yeah.
previously. It's
Yeah.
incredible. Incredible. So now we get to do the speed round.
Okay.
So exciting
All right.
because I said so.
Yes.
So basically, this just means I'm going to ask you a question super quickly, and then you just blurt out whatever.
Yeah.
And see what comes out of your mouth. It'll be so exciting for everyone, including me.
All right.
And Freya. First, oh shit, scaling moment.
Oh, very easy. When we had Logan Paul come in, and we haven't done any giveaways, and he was going to be the first one. We got 20,000 people that were going to show up for it. And we didn't know whether that's going to work at all or not. That was 3 weeks after I joined.
Oh my God. Wait. And I don't know him. Logan Paul?
Yes, he is.
Pole.
Yes, yeah. He's a big entertainer. Yeah.
He's a creator.
Yeah.
Creator.
He's a big creator. Yeah.
Person.
Yeah.
20,000 people showed up.
Yeah.
And it worked, or did it break?
It sort of worked, you know, like it worked enough, you know, like I would say it worked enough, you know, like to where we were not embarrassed by it.
Yeah. Most underrated category then or now?
Most underrated category. Most underrated category. I would say it used to be electronics. Now, weirdly, I think it's plants.
Oh my gosh, yes. I just met a woman who was a plant influencer and she just loves her plants. And she lives in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I had no idea that it was even a thing. It looks
It's a
like
thing.
she's in Hawaii, her white painted apartment with beautiful big tropical leaves that she nurtures and cares for, and then she gives them guidance on how to care for their plants. What the heck?
It's a thing.
That's wild. I thought she was just a one-off. Like her thing. Like
the thing.
Like you know, when you go to UC Berkeley, they were like, "Is your major basket weaving?"
Yeah, no, that's
basket weaving.
Yeah.
UC Berkeley. So, it is real that people are plant influencers. So they sell plants.
They sell plants. Yeah.
And
that's it. You know.
Ship a plant. You just
they have to do like special shipping. They sell even reptiles too. You know. There's animals too. You know.
Okay.
So
it's a whole world out there.
It's a whole world out there.
Go to Whatnot to find out.
Yeah.
Most misunderstood part of live commerce.
I'd say giveaways.
Because?
Because I think they drive a behavior where like you give someone, like something for free. For example, like you auction things and then you occasionally are like, hey, I'm going to do a giveaway. And it just does something to the mentality of people where like now they're like just much more engaged, willing to bid, etc. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've been here on Neighbor Chat. I've been like craving to give things away.
Yeah, there.
You just want to be able to give someone something because it's how fun if you can
Yeah.
find a way to help someone. I'll have to think about that one. What's harder, discovery or trust?
I would say trust is a must. Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
priority. One seller behavior that predicts success.
There are people that have a voice like this that basically are successful. Yeah.
Lighting?
Yeah.
No.
I would say if I had to pick one, it would be just passion for what they're doing. Actually, like basically, if you're passionate about like, shoes or plants, it just shows, and you're able to discover your people. If you're just doing it because you happen to want to sell something and you're just looking for a quick buck,
Right.
I think it's like,
Because you're like, it's cool to sell plants, so I'm going to sell plants. Like,
Yeah.
I could never be that person.
yeah, like, yeah.
It's really not on brand for me. Although I did have, out of the 3 units in my loft, in front of my loft in San Francisco, we each had a tree,
Yeah.
and my tree grew twice the size of the other trees next to it, and I was in the middle, and I was determined. I even would take like milk and clean off the leaves and reach out from my window so that they got more light so it would grow. And then I was determined that my music selection was better so that my tree grew faster because my music is better.
Yeah.
Okay, send me somewhere.
So, I mean, like, see, passion makes a difference. You cared, and then the tree tells the story. There you go.
Yeah, it was so big they had to change the whole sidewalk.
Yeah.
The tree trunk grew so big. Very proud tree mom.
Proud for me. Yeah.
One seller behavior that predicts burnout.
That one I just really don't know. That's a hard one.
Not sleeping.
I mean, there are people that have done 24-hour marathons, and they're not burnout. They're just kind of like loving it. But maybe it's like thinking of making a quick buck. Like that's basically
authentic.
Not being authentic.
Being true to yourself.
Yeah, not being authentic.
Not having clarity.
Yeah.
Just that.
Yeah.
It's so easy. Describe Whatnot in 5 words.
Helping people realize passion for life. That's 7.
Realize passion in real life. That is 5 words.
That's
7 of 5 words.
7 of 5 words. There you go. Yeah.
I love it. That's beautiful. Whatnot, best name ever or chaos?
I love the name. Like it's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, it was one of the reasons why I was like, yeah, I can see that being a thing.
Yeah, I love it too. Ludo, thank you.
Thank you for having me. This is wonderful.
I love it. So much fun to hang out with you, as always.
Yeah.
Whether it's the Big Island or for dinner during the day with this beautiful view, I'm always happy to hang out with you.
Me too.
It's incredible how much Whatnot has opened up opportunities for people who aren't necessarily tech savvy, but who are passionate about specific products and genuinely love telling stories. I love it when enthusiasm and personality matter because I'm enthusiastic and I love people.
And you have a great personality, so.
Thank you. It's not everyone thinks so. And I love that you helped build the engineering and structure that let people all over the world turn voice, taste, and community into real income, the kind of income that feeds families and builds independence. I'm fascinated with our trends and what people are doing with their time because nobody spends 95 minutes a day on platform just to spend money. That's belonging behavior. And yes, the valuation is impressive, but what moves me is what that scale represents about humans, what they trust and what they're hungry for, and what makes them show up and what makes them stay. I'm grateful for the way you humanize a conversation that could otherwise just feel like tech talk. I'm grateful you took the time to translate what hypergrowth actually looked like from the inside. Thank you for being here with us on Neighbor Chat, and thank you for being you.